Well, we're live right now. I was just getting my mic fixed for a second, so sorry to throw you off on that if anyone was wondering what I was doing. But we're back. I'm Zach, as usual, over in Lee, Mass. Is Sully? How you doing, man?
How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, as well. So we got a lot to talk about. We haven't done a show in probably about a week, hectic week again with like work and school and all that. So we're gonna get right to you. Just to sum up what we're talking about, the D'Angelo Russell fiasco that was going on with the Lakers. We're gonna be talking about Emory University and the poor traumatized kids down at that school. I mean, Donald Trump is breaking a lot of hearts and sending people to insane asylums down there, I guess. We also are going to talk about UConn women's basketball. And another thing we're also going to discuss, we're also going to talk about Pablo Sandoval being benched over Travis Shaw, the young Ohio baseball player that played pretty well last year when Pablo Sandoval didn't show up. But first, we're going to start off with a Final Four preview, so we'll get right to it. So down to the four teams. How did you do, by the way, with your picks? Because I know we picked teams the last time, and I think I was about like 50-50 on mine.
For my bracket, to be honest, I don't know if I could tell you off the top of my head. I know my bracket is kind of in shambles right now, and I picked Kansas to play in the national championship, so that's over. That's done.
And I had a feeling, too, when I was watching that game, and even though I did pick Kansas, there was something about the way Villanova's played the last couple of games in the tournament that wouldn't have surprised me had they won, which they did. But before we get into this Final Four talk, we gotta talk about this game, that University of Virginia game last weekend between them and Syracuse. How do you blow a 16-point lead as the #1 seed versus a 10 seed?
Well, we've been waiting for UVA to choke kind of all tournament. I mean, I kind of said it. They're a team that just doesn't show up in big moments, and they kind of surprised everybody by lasting as long as they did. But here you are, up 13 points or 15 points. I forget exactly how much it was, but
it was a 16-point halftime lead they had over a 10-seed Syracuse team, and they had like 2 points in like 6 minutes. The final, I remember there was about 6 minutes left in the quarter, and I'm pretty sure they had like a 58 to about 49-point lead over Syracuse. Now, Syracuse, they were down by 16 going into the half, and I remember we were watching the game, me and my friends were watching the game, and I look up at the score around 2 minutes, and Syracuse is up 63 to 58. I'm like, they didn't even have a basket in 5 minutes. Little long, like they blew the lead altogether, but they couldn't score. I mean, you're talking about a #1 seed versus a 10 seed.
Hey, sometimes though, man, especially in the tournament, when you start hitting brick after brick, you can't hit anything. It all goes right to your head, and you can't overcome that. And that's what happened. That's what happened to UVA.
And then the other game that happened after that was North Carolina and Notre Dame. Those two games are actually played on Sunday. And Notre Dame hung with Carolina for a bit. I'll give them credit. Beginning of the second half, they had a run, like a 10-0 run that tied the game up again. But North Carolina they are just the better team. They're pretty much superior on all sides of the ball. We're going to talk a little bit about what a lot of people were saying, that they're in trouble because they're not, like, 3-point shooting teams have not fared well in the stadium games, I guess, is what I've heard. And I guess Carolina is a big three-point shooting team, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But Final Four, we have Oklahoma and Villanova Saturday night, as well as North Carolina and Syracuse. So that's the ACC matchup right there. So, yeah, want to just give me a brief summary of what you feel about Oklahoma-Villanova first?
Man, it's tough to pick against. It's real tough to pick against Villanova right now. I know Buddy Hield's coming off of that 37-point performance in which he had 0 assists, funny enough.
I think he's going to win most outstanding player of the tournament if Oklahoma wins the whole thing. I don't see why they wouldn't give it to him. He's averaging 29 points a game in the tournament. 46% shooter from 3, 56% shooting from the field. He's playing unbelievably.
I don't think he necessarily has to win, or Oklahoma has to win for him to win that award. I think that, look at the other teams. Has there been any one player that stood out?
You're right, but he'd be the first player in 33 years to get that without winning the whole thing. The last one was Hakeem Olajuwon from University of Houston, the year the big NC State upset with Jim Valvano's team. So he'd be the first. If Oklahoma didn't win the whole thing and he won the award, he'd be the first one in 33 years. So it's a long time. But My instinct is telling me, and the funny thing about the game they played was that he knew Kobe Bryant was at the game, and he wanted to play a good game for Kobe. He's a hero for many of these guys coming up playing in the big leagues, and of course at the collegiate level. And I'm going to say this. I think Kobe said something about how he would be at his next game. I don't know if he was talking about the game on Sunday or Saturday whenever they played. I think they played Saturday. But if Kobe Bryant is at his game, I'm putting my money on Oklahoma if he's going to have a game like that, because nobody is stopping him if he's going to be at the game watching Buddy play.
I think that Villanova's been too tough. They've been too scrappy. They've shot the ball fantastic. I guess you're right. I guess if three-point shooting teams don't do that well, it's kind of a toss-up. I don't know. I like what I saw. Buddy Hield is eventually going to run into something. He can't do it all himself. He can't carry this team the entire way.
You're right. He might not be. He might not be able to. But look at this. He's on many draft boards right now. He's a top 5, top 10 pick. He's a big-time player. So I mean,
he absolutely should be.
Maybe this is something he has to prove. And this year, notably, has been the year, besides Ben Simmons and all the hype that's going into him going into the draft, not a big name draft like it was last year where you had like 5 guys in there that were big-time players. But you look at him now, he's making a name for himself. And I think the further he takes Oklahoma, the higher his draft stock's going to go. I think he could possibly be a top 3 pick. Top 3 pick is probably most likely if he does take them the entire way. But I think it will do a great thing for his draft stock if he continues to play with this momentum for Oklahoma. It's not going to hurt him if they lose anyways. I think he's done a fantastic job regardless. But, I think this matchup is going to be one of the best matchups of the entire tournament. And, yeah, of course, you can say that and make the argument because it's the Final Four, and the teams should be good when they get there. But these two teams, notably, have been playing consistently and beating teams by a good margin of points so far in the tournament. So I'm having a tough time who I'm going to roll with.
The best part about this matchup is that neither team is a number 1.
Yeah, they're both 2 seeds, right?
So both teams are ticked off that they weren't awarded a 1. They're ticked off that they weren't respected a little bit more, and they're just out to show everyone how wrong they were.
I think this is the game that I feel we can only discuss, and I feel bad because I knocked Syracuse saying that we weren't a classic Boeheim team. Well, it looks like they are going down as a classic Boeheim team right now because they're in the Final Four. I don't know how many times. I think Boeheim has been there 6, 7 times, I think. He's been in the Final Four, and he's only won 1 national championship, I think. And I continue to knock them, but like the way Carolina looked against Notre Dame, I really don't see anybody. Even if Oklahoma or Villanova were to get there, I'm putting UNC in the game. I don't even have to make this argument. They look so superior to Notre Dame towards the end of that game. It was almost like they were toying with their emotions, and then as soon as they got close, they're like, all right, let's just stick it to them and like put them out of their misery.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. However, they haven't really played that well in the first half of games. And I said this last episode, and they kind of went on and proved me wrong. Like they played great first half against Notre Dame, and they clearly had the muscle, the speed. They have enough.
They didn't have a good first half against Notre Dame, and they went into the half with a 4-point lead, which is crazy.
Yep.
So
there's too many weapons on this team. You have guys kind of pop up out of nowhere. Guys like Johnson, number 44, I forget his first name. He's had a huge, I think, 11 points in the second half alone, and he finished with 11. All 11 came in the second half. You have obviously guys like Nate Britt that can just are lights out from 3-point range. Marcus Page has been playing unbelievable.
He might be another one who you could probably throw in. If Carolina won the whole thing, Page would probably be a contender for that award as well. Outstanding player of the tournament.
It's funny because when he goes on, he is on, man. He'll kind of disappear for a little bit. You don't really hear his name. Then he'll light up like 3 threes in a row.
He's the one guy that is a problem for every team in the Final Four right now that you got to keep an eye on him. Same as everybody's looking at Buddy Hield for right now. Those 2 guys, I'm already going to say my pick. I want Oklahoma to beat Nova because I like Hield. I want him to be in the tournament game. I want to see Oklahoma UNC because I want to see those 2 guys on the court going after each other. I think it'll be kind of cool seeing a Big 12 ACC matchup in the tournament. I thought they were the 2 best conferences all year by far, Big 12 and the ACC. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, the ACC dominated the tournament. I mean, before the seedings even came in, I mean, when the seedings came in and before the tournament even started, the Big 12 had a lot of teams in the top tier of the brackets. I mean, obviously West Virginia crumbled real quick, but I mean, there were a good sum of teams that played halfway decent through the tournament. So it would be a good ending for those two conferences who have pretty much, I would say, dominated the entire season this year. When you take out like the Oregons and the Novas and all that kind of stuff, but I think those were the two best conferences all year. So it would be good to see them in the national championship. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma over Villanova, and I'm going to definitely pick North Carolina to beat Syracuse. So my national championship is Oklahoma, North Carolina.
I've got Villanova, North Carolina. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. Like I said, I think that Oklahoma is good, but Buddy Hield's been doing too much right now, and not even a matter of whether anyone else can step up, but it's a matter of just, are they going to lock him down and kind of take away what's been going well and mess up everyone's rhythm?
You got to win the whole thing. You got to win for those two.
I actually have a bracket that's at 99% right now, and I don't have any money riding on it. But North Carolina
winning the whole thing.
I have North Carolina winning the whole thing.
North Carolina, yeah, that's a good bet. I mean, I can't go against them. I can't. They look way better than everybody else. I do not like North Carolina, but I think they are by far the best team in the country. I don't think anyone's going to stop them unless Villanova shows they can hang with teams. So it would be a good matchup if Nova got there. Oklahoma too. I mean, I can't see somebody I see whoever plays them. Any team can hang with them, but towards the end, they just seem to pull away from everybody like they've done all season. So I'm gonna go North Carolina.
Don't last week's game seem like so long ago?
They do, and it was only a week ago. But I knew it when I was at work and I was watching the Miami Villanova game, and I was like, yeah, I screwed up. Why did I pick Miami? I'm done picking Miami. I'm done picking Virginia out the window. I can't do that anymore. It just drives me freaking berserk. So, all right. So you heard our national championship picks. We're going to talk some more basketball. All right. So there's a lot of drama going on in the NBA right now. Like a lot.
What is going on?
I know, dude. It's insane. Everybody's a freaking drama queen. All the shenanigans going on. I mean, obviously the big story from this week is the D'Angelo Russell video posted online of Nick Young confessing that he cheats on his wife. Rapper, not really rapper, garbage star, Iggy Azalea. What are your thoughts on that? Let me see it. Let me hear it.
Oh my God, man. Well, let's get this straight. D'Angelo Russell is a child. And I know that's your boy. He's your Ohio State boy, and I'm sorry, but it's come out a lot in reports before how members of the Lakers coaching staff have called him. Who's their coach? Byron Scott.
Yeah, I think so.
And Byron Scott's once told the media, they said he's 19, but sometimes you think he's 14 out there, and that's clearly showing. And I don't know whether he was trying to catch Nick Young in like a gotcha moment, blackmail, trying to hook up with Iggy Azalea himself. But
he didn't post the video online.
I know, but how does it get out?
You're right. But here's my thing. We're talking about a guy who cheated on his wife.
Oh.
And I understand why D'Angelo Russell's getting all the scrutiny and stuff. What he did was stupid. And that's the classic millennial thing for him to do, is to take his phone out and film every freaking thing in sight. Even the dumbest things. Why do you think all these kids get in trouble now on social media when they're applying for a job? It's because a picture they put on social media is stupid, of them getting drunk or passed out on the floor. And then there's a video of them like taking their pants off and waving around the air, screaming like King Kong ain't got shit on me or something like that. It's stupid stuff. He made a dumb mistake. But I think what a lot of people are talking about, like, oh, there's a bro code and you don't touch that stuff. And like, yeah, I know. I get that part. But we're talking about a guy who is unfaithful to his wife. So in the end, is it really a horrible thing that this happened? I mean, for the Lakers, yes. But if you look at your human side, and yeah, I don't like Iggy Azalea. I think her music is absolutely garbage. Terrible, terrible artist. But she's still a human being. She still should deserve to know if they're not married, they're engaged, if her fiance is loyal to her, which he hasn't been.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but
And the only reason why, Nick Young is not even a good basketball player. I don't think he's a good basketball player. If I'm the Lakers, I'm more worried about D'Angelo Russell because he's the second pick of the draft.
yeah, I mean, if I'm worried about D'Angelo Russell, like I think someone said on Twitter, what do you do if you're the Lakers? Trade everyone but D'Angelo Russell and start from scratch? It's almost what you have to do. Like, there's no one on his team that confides in him anymore. Nick Young is trash. He's not a good ball player. He's about as good a ball player as Iggy Azalea is a rapper.
Do you know what Nick Young is known for? Nick Young is known for that shot he threw up and he turned around and like showboated and he missed it.
It clanked in and off. Yep, I know. I've seen it many a times on Vine. But look, is Nick Young wrong for cheating on Iggy Azalea? Yes. Is he an idiot for bragging about it? Yes. Is he the only NBA player cheating on his wife? No, there's no way. So
of course not. No, absolutely not.
I'm not gonna, I'm gonna yell at D'Angelo Russell because what he did was stupid. I'm gonna say, hey, Nick Young, you probably shouldn't have done that because what he did is immoral. But there's probably 3 other guys on that roster that are doing the exact same thing as he is.
Of course, and I think the problem is like it's going to create a lot more tension. And I remember Dave Portnoy had his podcast. He had Kaminsky on the other day, Frank Kaminsky, the former Wisconsin player. He's out in Charlotte now, and he was talking about that would just be the worst thing to happen to a locker room in any sport was something like this happening. But I just have a huge problem with these reporters, especially guys on ESPN, telling this 20-year-old kid that made a mistake, like every rookie does a stupid thing. His happens to be a lot dumber than most things. I mean, can we look at it this way, though? Can we look at it that at least he didn't beat anybody up? At least he didn't shoot anybody. At least he didn't do anything. He posted a video that he shouldn't have, and he obviously broke a trust between him and a teammate, which I think the trust is stupid. I mean, I would feel bad for any of like my friends who was dating somebody, and I knew they were getting cheated on, and I couldn't say anything about it. It's a crappy spot to be in. But he didn't put the video online, and I know he shouldn't have his phone out and filming something like that. But this really isn't the worst thing somebody could have done, and the scrutiny he's getting by the media is outrageous.
He could have, he didn't. He's not arrested for a DUWI. He didn't beat his wife or his girlfriend, he didn't get into a fight like Jahlil Okafor. He didn't even get too drunk and do something. You know what I mean? You're right. In the grand scheme of things, this is very, very irrelevant. It's going to be very easy for him to recover from this, I think.
It's pathetic that that's the standard now because of everything that's going on in sports. It's really pathetic because if you look at it, like, oh, well, at least he didn't beat the crap out of his girlfriend, so at least he hasn't stooped to that level. That's how bad things have gotten in sports.
Look, that's true, but things have been bad in sports, and I don't think we give it enough credit. Like Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, they were cheating on their wives. Ty Cobb was a huge racist. There was no exposure like that, so it's just
out. Of course.
But now it's this 24/7 limelight that everyone is in, and you can't get away with anything. You can't get away with anything on your phone. There's hackers now. We see this all the time trying to get into players and celebrities' phones. Tom Brady, the reason he destroyed his phone is because he didn't want to be subject to something like that. So it's really frustrating that you're right. People have come to this. People are treating D'Angelo Russell like he killed someone, when in reality there's people who actually kill someone who get less scrutiny. I
just think the media is running with this a lot. I understand it's kind of a big deal, and I understand like people are going to be like, oh, I can't trust Russell anymore. But you know what? People make mistakes. People do stupid things, and you got to forgive and forget. And if I'm the Lakers, I think this is a great excuse to get rid of Nick Young. I really do. I really think it's a great excuse. I think that them trading Russell away is a disaster. I think that Russell has so much potential to be a great player in the NBA. He's 20. He just turned 20 years old. He was a freshman in college last year. And, yeah, the Lakers are bad, and I think that you can tell the way Kobe acts around him that he really likes the kid. He knows he's something special. And I just think that we can't jump to the gun right away because a guy like him made a mistake, obviously a really dumb mistake. But he's 20 years old. If it happened multiple times, if it continues to get worse, yeah, the Lakers should be worried. Right now it's a mess, of course, but I don't think we can just jump the ship and say this is the worst thing that this could ever happen.
If you're the Lakers, I literally think you trade everyone away. Why? You clearly don't care about the season anyway. You're clearly tanking.
Trade away the guys like Julius Randle and all them? What? Trade away them too? Like some of the young guys.
No, not all the young guys, but I'm saying like D'Angelo Russell is your future.
I understand that Randall was a top pick for them too. I mean, this is technically his first season after he what was it? He tore his ACL like last season, his rookie season, and didn't really play. So I think that's another guy that you can't really think about trading away because he's part of that he's part of that nucleus that they want for the team growth. Like he's an important aspect.
But you trade away any veteran that doesn't have any value in the future because
like Nick Young, get rid of him. I could give two craps if he leaves or not. Right now, it's like, unfortunately, it wasn't his fault, but he's part of the distraction. One, he's not that good, and two, he's creating another distraction on the team. Like I said, not his fault, but he's still part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is his fault because he chose to not only cheat on his wife.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he cheated on his wife, so he technically did get himself in the mess. I mean, the video would never have never existed with that content had he not cheated on his wife. Right. So there's that.
I don't know. I think the NBA, I said it to you in a text earlier. Why can't more teams be like the Spurs, be like the Warriors? Man, I don't know if you've had a chance to check out ESPN, the magazine's piece on the Warriors, but there is a little bit of butt kissing. They really just love Steph Curry, and it's pretty obvious. But
ESPN does this with everybody who's like an upcoming star. They just run it to the pavement. And why do you think these guys are hated so much by everybody? Because we're so sick of them.
I know, but this article made me love Draymond Green like a child. Oh my God, that guy is amazing. He is fantastic. He's just like, he's pissed off at the world because everybody told him he wasn't good enough. And he was great
at Michigan State too.
Great at Michigan State. And everyone had no reason to think that he wouldn't do well. And he's a motor mouth. He chirps all the time. He's all pumped up. He's not afraid to talk a little smack in the press. He's not this straightforward. I love him, man. He's like skyrocketed, top 5, top 10 athletes for me right now.
What are the chances of the Celtics win tonight?
They'll make it close because for no good reason they get up for games like this. But I think it's pretty ridiculous to think they'd win.
Yeah, I think the Warriors will run and take that record. All right, moving on. So you want to talk about? Let's talk about Travis Shaw. So he's got the spot. He's the third baseman. He's starting over Pablo Sandoval. The reason why I think we bring this up, not because, like, obviously me and Sully were Red Sox guys, but baseball fans in general, and I think it's very important to address this. The Red Sox have spent $90 million on Pablo Sandoval, and he's not even starting on opening day. I mean, we discussed this in our podcast earlier. He came to spring training fat. He came to it unmotivated. He said some dumb things that really pissed off a lot of Red Sox fans, like how he didn't really have much to improve on, even though he came off the worst season of his career. This has gone farther from last season when he was sitting on the bench during a game where it was like 2-1 in the 8th inning, and he's liking models' photos on Instagram. So far, this has been a complete reflection of the Carl Crawford situation that was in Boston about 5 years ago. What do you have to say about this, Sully?
I think it's worse. Crawford was just kind of a wimp and was hurt a little bit of the time. But Pablo clearly doesn't care. I'm thrilled. But I think it's important for everyone to know that the reason this decision was made is because John Farrell is managing for his job right now. If he goes under 500 in April and May and maybe even a little bit of June, he's gone. There's a reason they signed Tony Lovello to that long-term contract. It's because they need someone they can trust to step in the second that Farrell gets canned. He shouldn't lose his job because he was sick. I'm okay with them keeping him on. I will be honest, I want Lovello to be the head coach 110%. I like Farrell. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good manager. I'll never be able to thank him enough for what he did bringing the World Series in 2013. However, I don't think look, he managed a Blue Jays team that was very average, and he came to the Red Sox, had a boatload of good players, had some awesome circumstance to play for, and they won a World Series. And then he managed his team to the ground 2 years in a row. I don't know if the Jessica Moran thing has anything to do with it. Maybe it does. Maybe it's him not being focused. Maybe it's his players not giving a crap about what he has to say in the clubhouse. We all see how well that goes with Terry Francona. I don't know, but long story short, Travis Shaw.
I pray to God that what you just said went through, because you just went frozen and I couldn't hear you for like 15 seconds, but I heard you talking still. So I hope that we have some good content when we put this online.
Man, I don't like this Red Sox team. I love the young guys. I love Mookie Xander. Obviously, I love Petey, and Jackie Bradley Jr. and Poppy.
Pablo stinks. He stinks. That's the whole thing is he doesn't care. And that the thing is, when you bring a guy to Boston, and yeah, everybody knows this thing about going like players that go to Boston, the fans will eat you alive if you show zero interest in the team, not only the team, but the city. Why do you think no one cared when Jacoby Ellsbury left? Because everyone knows he didn't give a crap about the city. He's a business guy. All he cares about who's signing his check. Now, when you come here, though, when you're here for a year and you don't get the job done, one, yeah, the fans are going to give you crap for it. Like, all right, we gave you a year. You got to get it going now. And then you come out and say these outrageous things about how you have nothing to improve on. And then you have that picture that goes online of your gut hanging out while you're throwing the ball in the outfield. It's going to create problems. You're going to get benched. I hope to God that he says something stupid again, because I don't even know what to say, but he's going to throw me a curveball. He's going to throw me a curveball. I'm not going to know how to handle it because Pablo Sandoval, I don't know what's going through his head. I really don't. The guy is insane. How does he think these kind of things? It's outrageous.
He was a very average player, and then he did fantastic.
He showed up in the postseason for the Giants and did great things. But other than that, is he worth $95 million? Hell no.
Look, you look at Boston, you think they like guys who are superstars, maybe sometimes, but if you don't have the right attitude, they don't care. Look at how many guys call in sports talk radio every day talking about how they want to trade guys who are pretty important. Guys like trade Ortiz. They would say trade Ortiz. He's one of the most important players in that organization history, period. History, period. And if he goes off on one of his rants, which he's known to do every once in a while, usually he has a very good reason for it. It's because he's dealing with –
He's every right to. He shows up and plays and still hits home runs for the team. And he's, turning 40, 41 next year?
Yep. But
Pablo Sandoval, how old is he, 29, 30, and he's not doing crap right now? He has every right to. He won the Red Sox 3 World Series. He can say whatever the hell he wants and get away with it.
You want to see what a Boston athlete is about? Look at the amount of support Shaw has gotten. A 25-year-old backup third baseman who really isn't a third baseman. In all reality, he should be playing first base because he's not that athletic of a guy.
They want him starting over the guy who's worth $95 million.
Yes, and he hasn't proven anything. He came up, hit a bunch of dingers in the second half of the season, and did a great job as a fill-in, and people are in love with this guy, in love with him. That goes to show how awesome of a fan base Boston is. They fall in love with guys too quick, maybe. Brock Holt, another example, very above-average player, not great, above average. They want that guy starting in center field and leading off every single day. It's because he's
reminds me a lot of how the Red Sox fans thought about Trot Nixon in the early 2000s, because Nixon was never a big guy, and he wasn't like the most athletic, and he wasn't the biggest power hitter or the greatest fielder. But sometimes like you can just hit the fans right. I mean, I think like you'll probably argue me this. I didn't even think Veritek's not that. I didn't think he was that great either. I mean, average hitter. I mean, yeah. Behind the plate he was good. But all-around ball player, he was all right, you know?
Well, he was one of that era. He was one of the best catchers, period. He was very, very good. I don't know if I'll say great, but of that time period, it was him, Ivan Rodriguez, Jason Kendall, Yadier Molina, 4 or 5. There weren't many guys better than him. The way he could handle a pitching staff was second to none. But you're right.
Do you know that Jason Veritek is like the only guy to ground out to make the last out in the Little League World Series and the College World Series?
I didn't know that.
It was so funny. I got to just say this story real quick. So my father and me were watching a Sox game and just speaking on the Red Sox talk, and it showed Jason Veritek popped up, and he said something about him playing in the Little League World Series. My dad was pissed and was like, oh, yeah, Jason Veritek playing the Little World Series. I guarantee you he grounded out to make the last out. And no joke, 5 minutes later, and Jason Veritek grounded out to make the last out Little League World Series. And we just erupted in this laughing fit. We're just like, no freaking way that just happened. But it was just some funny stuff. But sorry for interrupting. If you want to wrap this one up, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I guess all I was going to say is that people hop on the backs of players who work their butts off, and that's Travis Shaw. That's Trot Nixon, like you mentioned. That's Jason Veritek. That's Wakefield. How many people were behind him when that guy couldn't get his 200th victory? And people were backing him 100%. Just get that win. Wait, just get that win. It's the way Gregory Campbell, Sean Thornton, the list goes on and on. Teddy Bruschi. I mean, Teddy Bruschi could, he's a fantastic player, but also workhorse.
So, yeah, so that's our thing with Boston. So they start their season next week at Cleveland. David Price will be on the hill for the Sox. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk some UConn women's basketball. So, I mean, I think if any of you have been following up on this, I mean, UConn women's, I mean, they're just an absolute dynasty. I had written down that I had some notes written. I'm going to find those in a second. But, Sully, you want to talk a little bit about the Shaughnessy article?
Yeah, I think we disagree. So Dan Shaughnessy, he doesn't even write an article to begin with. It's just a tweet. And this is I'm paraphrasing, but it says basically – UConn women's basketball, fantastic organization. So good that beating a team by 60 points is unwatchable. Watch, no thanks. So basically what Dan Shaughnessy is saying, and anyone who knows Dan Shaughnessy out there knows he's kind of a loudmouth. He loves stirring the pot. He literally wrote a whole book. It's called Curse the Bambino on stirring the pot. He's the one who originated that curse. The curse didn't exist until he wrote it in columns. And he also, if you're a regular reader of the Boston Globe, he hates on soccer more than almost anything. He'll just hate on it just to hate on it. Hates on the World Cup, says it's a ridiculous event. Anyway, he says this, and he gets a ton of flack. Rightfully so from the women's basketball community, because does Dan Shaughnessy watch a lot of college basketball, women's college basketball? Probably not. He probably doesn't. So what business does he have to comment on it? Very fair. But people are coming out of the woodwork and saying it's a sexist thing. ESPN is making it a very sexist thing, and that's not the case at all. And I'm actually going to make the argument.
ESPN likes to take everything out of context and make it a political issue or a PC issue because that's exactly how they roll. I mean, I'm just going to add that right there because they've known they blow everything out of proportion at that facility. So but I will say this: so you think that the article is not what is your initial thoughts on it? What do you feel about Shaughnessy's opinion?
I don't think he's necessarily wrong. I mean, once again, I probably watched UConn play 2 times this year, 2 full games. So what right do I really have to comment on it? But if they're trying to attract the average fan, no average fan is going to turn in to watch a 45-point blowout. They're just not. It's not going to happen. A lot of diehard fans won't keep.
But do you think that people will tune in to watch Connecticut beat the crap out of everybody, and especially in women's basketball? I guarantee you, there's going to be a lot more people watching UConn national championship game to see how much they murder the other team, rather as if it was 2 average teams that really, really bringing in headlines. I mean, a few years ago, you had Brittany Griner, who was she was the girl that they looked at was she is a dominant force on the court. And she can take over the game. And this is something that not a lot of people had seen in women's college hoops before. So it brings attention. But you got to give the guy I'm not saying you're not giving him credit, but this guy has won 9 national championships in 15 years. He has a head coaching record of 953 and 134. And he's running a 73-game winning streak right now. What he's doing is insane.
Right, and I'm not denying that at all. He's by far one of the best coaches in basketball history, not women's basketball history.
No, you got to talk basketball history. I don't care. I don't care male or female. You go 953 and 134. You're one of the best ever to do it. I don't care who the hell you're coaching. You're bringing the thing that's most tedious about college too is you have to continuously get a new team. It's not like you can roll with a professional team and have some of the same guys for year after year after year. There's people who declare for the draft. There's people who are usually academically ineligible to play. So sometimes that could ruin a program. I mean, this guy has consistently recruited great talent of great women basketball players for a long time. I mean, I think they're not good. I don't see why they wouldn't win it again. They're going to possibly win their 4th national championship in a row, which is insane.
He is by far, and there's a lot of people out there who will say, oh, Gino couldn't coach in the men's game. Yes, he could. Are you kidding me? Gino could 100% coach in the men's game. You know why? Because there are a ton of middle programs like Middle Tennessee or Albany or Stony Brook or even something like Holy Cross. He could easily coach at any of these schools and be dominant. because if you ever watch videos
Not a
of
reputation. People would want to play for him because he won. He wins.
Exactly.
That's exactly what
and it's not basketball. It's not a different game, men's and women's. It's really not. The men's game might be a little bit more. The men's game is more physical. I will give it that. But at the same time, everything is the same. Schemes are the same. Do you know what I mean? You might have better shooters on the women's side all around as a team. Then again, you might not. There's not dunking as much. So I know there's different aspects of it, but as far as coaching goes, they're pretty transcendent between the two genders. I hate how people say he can't coach the men's game. I think that's a load of crap, especially because you're telling me he couldn't. University of New Hampshire, above 500 program, America East, which is not a very solid conference. It's a lower tier conference. They're 100%. If that guy went to the University of New Hampshire, if he coached there, he would have that team win a conference championship. They might even win a tournament game. They're 100%. He could coach in the men's game.
It's all about bringing recruitment and stuff like that. That's why these kids are like, especially when you look at men's basketball, what's the one thing they look at? They want to go play for a big-time school, and they want to play for a big-time coach because they want people to recognize their talent. Why do you guys think Coach K and Roy Williams and John Calipari recruit so well? It's because kids want to go play for those coaches because they know that their track record is really great. We'll never see it. We'll never see it probably, but I think that he doesn't get enough credit as deserved. It really doesn't. And I understand why Shaughnessy's article may say it's ruining the sport. But you know what? I respect a good dynasty. And you know what? I would love this. It would be cool to see someone knock Connecticut off. But I really don't see how it's doing harm for the sport. I mean, this is like a dynasty we're watching right now in for women's college basketball. And I think it's a pretty interesting thing to watch right now.
Kate Fagan, who is probably the expert on all things involving gender. She's great. She's fantastic. She writes for ESPN. She used to write for the Denver Post, I believe, and she did a little reporting for the Philadelphia Inquirer. That's how she broke in. She reported on the 76ers for them. She brings up the debate. A lot of people are talking about 8-foot rims versus 10-foot rims and stuff like that. And she says, no, forget all of that. I can understand your point. Like, I think Candace Parker is very against it. Deanna Taurasi, who left the WNBA to go play overseas and make more money, said you might as well put us in skirts and put us back in the kitchen. Power statement. But Fagan is a very big advocate of the reason that the women's game is not as popular as the men's game is because of the WNBA. Is that people watch college basketball that are only casual fans because they know that this player might have a chance at going to their NBA team in a couple of years. But people don't do that in the WNBA. Or WNBA fans because there's not a lot of WNBA fans out there. So I think she has a very good point. How do you fix that? I don't know. I have no idea. But you see it. People get behind the United States women's soccer team. And that's a sport like soccer, which doesn't have as much popularity as basketball in this country. So there's got to be a way to do it. I think that money hasn't been pumped into it enough. That's what I think.
No, I definitely agree with what you're saying there, and I just think that I don't see why it would be a bad thing for the sport. To be honest with you, I think this is going to bring more people to the sport. More people are going to want to watch Connecticut win by a lot. I mean, they beat Arkansas the other day, I think, or Mississippi, whatever it was, by like 60 points or something crazy.
So Mississippi State.
What's up?
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. That's what I thought. I knew it was a team in the SEC, but so I think there's nothing really wrong with it. But I think that.
I don't necessarily agree, but like I said, I don't watch that much women's college basketball. So then again, what do I know? I guess the biggest comparison I can make is that college hockey, very very devoted fan base, but it's not huge. It's not like basketball. It's not like football. It's really not even like college baseball. They don't try and appeal to people outside that audience. Maybe women's basketball should do the same thing. They shouldn't try to appeal outside that audience. If you're a women's basketball fan, you're always going to be a women's basketball fan, and nothing's going to really change that. So maybe that's where people have the thing wrong. Maybe women's basketball is never going to be drawing in 3 million, 4 million people on a Tuesday night, and that's what people have to stop imagining.
So, nope. So that's how we feel about that topic right there. So wrap that up. All right. So final topic. I've been waiting all week for this one. All right. So. I hate our generation. I hate it. I hate it. So, if anybody's been watching the news, and all right, so me and Sully, we're political heads. We like our politics. We follow up on the debates and stuff. So, if you've been following up on the news, Emory University, as as well as many other universities have been guilty of this. So apparently some kids on the college campus did a horrible thing the other day. They wrote Trump 2016 in chalk on the ground. And the following Monday on campus, students were complaining to the administration using words like they were traumatized and that this was a violent action over chalk writing. Chalk writing, saying that like students even went as far to say that they thought that a KKK rally was going to happen on campus with the chalk writing and stuff. Before I go into this big rant, I just want to hear what you have to say about this. How do you feel about this whole thing?
No, I want you to go into your big rant. Go ahead.
I'm so sick of everyone being a bunch of babies about anything. And the thing that is so freaked up about all of this is that these are people who are expressing their First Amendment right. There is nothing they're doing wrong. They're not beating anybody up. They're not hassling anybody. Got that right, Bernie Sanders supporters? They're not going in other places and heckling people for their views. They are simply writing in chalk on the ground that they're supporting a candidate. And yes, we understand this. Donald Trump is not a guy that everybody is going to get behind and say, yeah, he's the guy that's going to lead us to the country. And I understand that he says some things that are not the best. He says some things that are completely ignorant. But he is the leading candidate to one of the biggest parties in America, the Republican Party. And if people have the right to support him, then he can. Why do you think these nut jobs that are part of the Westboro Baptist Church haven't been shot and killed by the police yet? You know why? Because there's a First Amendment right that lets them preach their idiotic, disgusting views. And I understand that people aren't always going to agree with what Trump is saying. But you cannot do these kind of things on college campuses. And we've accepted this on schools. We've accepted this. There are people at Emory University right now that are using camera evidence to catch these people and hunt them down to find out about who wrote this on campus. They didn't have any problems of it when they wrote Bernie Sanders supporter, go vote for Bernie Sanders. They didn't have a problem with it when they wrote Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. That wasn't an issue. But as soon as Donald Trump says something, as soon as Donald Trump writing gets written on the chalk on the sidewalk, this is big fiasco that, oh, well, I feel violated. My feelings are hurt. I'm so sick of this safe space term. It makes my blood boil. How you can have views. You can say whatever you want as long as you're not conservative and as long as you agree with everything that the liberal bias is. That's exactly what college is teaching these students, and it's sick. The First Amendment, I don't feel like people know what that is anymore. They don't.
I don't know. I don't know if college is necessarily telling people things. I think that people.
But they're accepting it though, Sully. They're literally complying with it. Why do you think they're terrified of these people? Well, why do you think James Wagner, the president of Emory, is complying and saying, we got to really go after these guys? They're running chalk. Why? They want to support another candidate. Because
tuition dollars. That's what it is. He wants to make it look like he's actively doing something, so people won't be afraid to apply there. Look, the whole.
But does that really help though? Missouri is facing its lowest incoming freshman attendance right now because of this whole fiasco that happened on campus of the protesters. Now I understand the Black Lives Matter movement and like protesting for issues for like police brutality. That is a thing. But a lot of these kids that were hanging out on the Oval, including that dumbass Melissa Click, they obviously didn't prove anything because Missouri's losing money because of it. Less students are going to the university. And I think that Emory is going to face the same problem if these guys don't stand up to these bullies and radicals that are telling students that you can't support Donald Trump because I said so and you don't agree with me, blah, 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 this.
I've told you this story before about a reporter at my student paper misprinting, just making a straight typo and calling a guest speaker Mrs. instead of Doctor, and a activist professor, I don't know what to call her exactly. She came after her and was chewing out me and my editorial staff because it was a microaggression. Because since she was black and a woman, she couldn't possibly appear as a professor, even though she was, and appear to have her doctorate. And it's like there are a lot of people who are looking for ways to go out of their way and hold
It's
people
all
down.
they think about. It's all that is in their heads 24/7.
I
And
know.
the funniest part is, as these people who nitpick and bully and they're radicals, is what they are. They are radicals. Did you see the video the other day of that the African American chick that was heckling that dude that had the dreads, saying he should the cultural appropriation? That is racist. That is screwed up. And the thing is, if you are going to stop somebody in your tracks, and that is, to me, somebody who is constantly thinking about racist stuff all day. The fact that they had to stop somebody for having a haircut. That's like somebody going up to a black person who had like a hair comb to the side cut and said, well, you can't wear that because I see a lot of white kids who are in frats having that hairstyle. So have some culture appropriation, dude. He can wear whatever the hell he wants. What the hell does it have to do with a culture or anything like that? You're really that racist that you have to keep thinking of these kind of things to make you feel better about yourself, that you want to bully other people for the way they dress, for the way they look?
The thing to remember, and I know you get as fired up, and this pisses me off to no end too, but the thing to remember is that they're a very loud minority, these people. And honestly, the most unfortunate thing about our generation is that so many people don't care enough to stand up and be like, look, this is 30,000 kids who don't think like that, and this is maybe 100 at most. 100.
And a perfect example of that is what just happened 2 days ago with the Action Bronson situation over at what was it? George Washington. I forgot what school it was. Bronson's performance got canceled because 300 kids signed a petition at school because of lyrics in one of his songs. So now he can't perform at the school, though there's 25 to 30,000 undergrads at the school, which is hysterical. So what, 300 kids speak for 25,000 because of what they think?
Well, the thing is, though, is that people don't care enough to oppose these people. And I'm not calling people apathetic or anything like that. But look, we haven't done this podcast all week because we're really, really busy. And if we're really, really busy, as pissed off as we might be about some idiot who has nothing better to do with their time than call other people out for things like microaggressions and racism that doesn't actually exist or is just being created in their own minds, then they don't have time to speak out against that to begin with, because they don't have time to do their own stuff like homework. And that's the unfortunate thing right here, is that these people donate. Look, the group at the University of New Hampshire that is like these groups is probably 25, 30 people deep, and it has a lot of power. It got that bill passed at the University of New Hampshire that everybody was giving UNH crap about, that said there are certain terms you should use when writing a paper that are politically correct. It wasn't set in stone. You weren't going to get expelled. You weren't going to fail a paper if you called someone a American citizen or a United States citizen instead of an American. There were suggestions. People blew up with that, though. Why? They should, because a lot of that is crap. But these people get together. The college doesn't want to seem like it's unfair or not.
But there's at least there has to be dialogue on both sides, though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that it's not wrong to be a liberal. There's got to be dialogue on both sides of the spectrum. You got to be able to at least talk it out, and if you have different issues, that's cool. That's what the democracy is founded on. But they don't get it, though.
This isn't liberalism. You don't see normal.
You're right. It's not liberalism. It's radicalism.
It is radicalism.
And I don't mean to put every liberal in the category of it, but many of them are
No, it's a very silent. I'm going to stop you there because it's a very loud minority of it. It's probably less than 10%.
I'm not saying it's all of them. I'm saying the small minority of it is.
Yeah, they're very loud, and unfortunately, people don't care enough, or they don't have the outlet. But
are there conservatives on the complete right side? They're radicals too. Of course they are. They are, but they're the ones that are making the voice. But they're also making college students like us idiots. But they're not allowing for certain speakers to come to campuses. They've banned comedians. They've banned performances. They've banned conservative speakers. I mean, this whole situation with Milo Yiannopoulos is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if you know about him. He is this very openly gay conservative who hates on feminism because he thinks that the feminists who are standing up for women's right are not feminists at all. He thinks they're radicals. He has discussed issues about this on college campuses. He's been banned at college campuses, including my campus, which is why he canceled his event at my school, because he heard that people were rallying against banning him from the campus, and he's trying to now make another meeting. But he was at Michigan about a month ago, and he's been out speaking about this kind of things. And yeah, I don't agree with everything he says, but these are what people try to do. They try to silence him. He was verified on Twitter, and he had a thing coming out which was a little over the line about feminism or cancer. Which one would you rather your kid have? And he put a poll out about it, and then Twitter de-verified him about it. But is that? But I mean, like, there have been people who have said some outrageous stuff on Twitter that haven't got de-verified about things. You know what I mean? Like messed up stuff. So it's insane what's going on right now in America. It is insane.
I just want to clarify, like, when we say feminists, obviously feminism means equal rights for men and women. Obviously, me and Zach both want that. We want that for everyone. You'd have to be kind of a scumbag not to, obviously. And we don't mean that. We're talking about exactly what Zach is talking about, the people who go into radicalism and extend this way past the issue. I'm saying,
I just think I want an argument on both sides. I mean, I agree with things on the left side of the spectrum, and I agree with stuff on the right side of the spectrum, but there's no dialogue between anybody on campuses and stuff. But that's exactly what Emory's advocating. They're advocating that you can't vote for Donald Trump, is exactly what you're saying. And that's actually a quote that I used from Josh Goodman, who is a junior who was on Bill O'Reilly the other night talking about this at Emory. And he flat out sounded perfectly about it. And yeah, he's a conservative, identifies as a conservative, but you can't go around silencing people because they disagree with you on things. It just gets me so angry because they don't understand this concept. They're like, what? Free speech? You can say things that, like, can hurt my feelings? Like, you can do that kind of stuff? Yes, they can. They can do whatever the hell they want. This is a democracy. This is why many people have moved to the United States, because they want freedom of speech, freedom to express their views, whether you're a Catholic, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're Jewish, to express your religion. You can do any of that in the country, but you can't silence people because somebody lives their life or has a different view than you. You can't do that. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here just really frustrated about it. I can just think about these people at my old school who just would peruse every single Facebook thread, every single social media site, tell people how they couldn't say stuff, people making jokes.
There's just an outrage about everything these days. Like, oh, well, we caught controversy caused because of this. Outrage, U.S. outrage. Stop being a bunch of babies and stop getting offended by so much stuff. You guys are stronger than that. And for every college student that's saying they're traumatized by the chalk writing on the ground, you got a rude awakening for you when you graduate from school, because the world is not a liberal arts campus. I'm just going to say that right now.
My favorite post was someone put on Yik Yak. If you remember that, I don't know if people still use that.
Yeah, I don't use it, but I do remember that.
They put something like, "Oh, saw a really hot Asian girl the other day, and I wanted to hook up with her because I'd never hooked up with an Asian girl." And someone wrote this paragraph that was like, "That's offensive because you just want to hook up with her because she's Asian. You're treating her as an object." And I'm like, "Oh, it was a joke. Like, it was a joke. Calm down."
No, you can't joke around with these people anymore. Why do you think Jerry Seinfeld and all of them have come out and stated that they don't go to college campuses anymore? Because none of them can take a joke anymore. They can't. They're just they're all that goes through these radicals' heads is they literally look around themselves and see every people walking around, and they look for nitpick and say, how can I call this person out about racism? Because they are racist themselves. I deep down believe that the radicals who are the most offensive of all this stuff, they're the most racist ones. They're the ones who cause the most problems. And unfortunately, like you said, you're correct. It's the minority, and the minority has a loud voice right now. Especially on college campuses about this stuff, but this thing needs to get toned down, and First Amendment rights need to be issued again and need to be taught on campuses. So until that day comes, it's only going to get worse. But all right, well, that's it for our show right now. If you had any final thoughts, Sully, throw them at me.
No, I was just going to say, if you think we're full of shit and that we're scumbags, let us know. We're happy to hear it.
Yep. I would gladly like to talk to somebody if anyone has to disagree with me on this, because if you're going to disagree with me on my First Amendment right about freedom of speech, you're dead wrong. I mean, the United States expresses this for many, many years, and you cannot just get mad at somebody for for having a different view than you. I'm sorry. We're not all going to agree. We've never have all agreed. I mean, we just agree to disagree, but there has to be a conversation.
Me and Zach are going to we're going to work on getting a guest.
Yeah, we got to work on getting a guest or something. So just to talk about this and get some more views for this stuff. But like as always, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We've been a little bit slow lately, but hopefully as the month's winding down, we will get some more shows and stuff. So as always, I'm Zach with Sully.
Baseball's upon us, ladies and gents. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later.
Enjoy.